Hey YouTube, in today's video I'm going to do a deck profile on my updated Seal Dragon deck. So Seal Dragons, they did get a couple of cards, two cards, a grade 1 and a grade 2, from the latest set, the recent set 6. So I did change the deck a little bit. It's actually quite a bit better as a control-based deck now, rather than just a spammy beatdown deck, Kagero style, or a restander style like Overlords, or it's more like it plays more to the control style aspect, and it's a little bit better now. But I wouldn't consider it like super competitive by any means. Just because of the way it plays. I mean, it's not, Seal Dragons are not terrible. I kind of like to compare them to the Shadow Witches for Shadow Paladin, because they sort of do one thing and they're pretty good at what they do. So we'll get right into the main deck here. So I still only have my two Georgettes that I pulled from my two Brilliant Strike boxes. I think it's almost, like 2 years now. 2014 these guys were available. So ideally you want to play 4 of this, because this is still the best grade 3 that Seal Dragons have. But I only have 2. The second best grade 3 is Blockade Inferno. He can blow up all the grade 2s on the opponent's field and gain 10,000 power. So either one of them combos pretty well with the Break Ride. So I'm still running the Break Ride, even though he's really not all that good in Stride format, just because it's the next best thing I have besides these Georgette and Inferno. So just 8 grade 3s, because the deck has enough spammy retire abilities in the early game that it's not too big of a deal that you don't need to run the Stride fodder or a 9th grade 3 or anything weird like that. So that's the grade 3 lineup. Didn't really change too much. Next, for grade 2s, one of the most important grade 2s that they have is Seal Dragon Corduroy. Corduroy is just really good at hitting their back row. He kills the starter, and usually a lot of people playing GB1 restricted starters now. So he kills that as soon as he's placed on VRR. You counterblast a Seal Dragon, and you retire one of your opponent's rear guards. So he picks anything off. It's really nice. You gotta run 4 of this, just for the most retire capabilities. Next, grade 2 is the new card they got, Seal Dragon Barathea. Barathea is really nice in that he does generate hand advantage if the opponent does not have a grade 2 in their hand. And basically what he does is when he's placed on R, you can Soul Blast a Seal Dragon, and then your opponent can choose a grade 2 from the hand and call it to an open R. It must be an open R, so they cannot call over something else. If they do not, you get to draw a card for free. So he can essentially be a free +1 if they have nothing to call, if they don't want to call anything. So I feel like on big push turns, when you can have an open space to call him down, I feel like he's really good with this guy, or he can potentially combo with Hellfire, Seal Dragon Knight. So some people don't run this; they run the 12K Jacquard. But I don't know if you want to run like 2 Jacquard and 1 of this, or 1 of this and like 3 of those, or some weird combination. I was trying to play around with that, but I found this was just really good. Only downside of using these 2 together is they both use Soul Blast as part of their cost. But what I like about Dragon Knight is usually the opponent ends up with lots of grade 2s on the field. Like they'll almost always have 2 interceptors. So he basically kills their ability to intercept that turn. It's not just for his attack; it's for all your attacks. The whole turn, the opponent can't intercept. So that's really nice. And he gains 2K for every grade 2. So he works very well with Georgette. Unfortunately, though, he does not combo well with Inferno if you want to use Inferno's effect. So that's why I feel like him with Georgette is really good. If I didn't have Georgette at all, I probably would be running 12K. So that's grade 2s. He's sort of like a semi 11K or 13K attacker, or potentially even 15K attacker in some cases, but it's rare. Next, for grade 1s, 4 Rhino Cross, just the Seal Dragon Perfect Guard. Honestly, you can either run this or Protect Orb, but I feel like Rhino Cross is still more consistent just because you have a lot of special counterblasts. Like you've got Corduroy, You have to Soul Blast a Seal Dragon for some of the costs, so that's why I feel like if this was your turn 1 ride, then you can still Soul Blast it. I still feel it's more consistent. Plus, it can protect all your rear guards like this guy, which is kind of important for the deck. Next, the new Grade 1 at 4 copies, Seal Dragon, Doskin. So this is the card that counter charges for Seal Dragon. They finally get a counter charger. And when the opponent's Grade 2 is placed on R, if you have a Vanguard with Seal Dragon, you can counter charge 1, then choose one of your other rear guards, and it gets 2k for each of the opponent's Grade 2 cards. So it combos really well with him. Like, you can call this, it's kind of like Dorant and Blaster Dark, Revenger, in a weird way. That's like the closest comparison I can think of, because these two do combo well together. But he does also work fairly well with Dragon Knight, so there's that too. And the other thing worth noting is that you can do this effect on your opponent's turn. So it's when your opponent's Grade 2 unit is placed on R. It's not due to your effect, it's just when it's placed on R. So that's really nice. So that card is probably, like, both rear guards that they got are pretty good. Next I'm running 3 of the Seal Dragon Mulciber. Seal Dragon Splight Mulciber, so she's the Limit Break Enabler for Kagero for the clan. She happens to be Seal Dragon. So very good with Georgette, especially for that early game potential to get the plus 5k. And then if they've got 2 or more rear guards, he gets a critical. So, and another thing nice about Georgette, what I really like about him, is that he does have the ability to handle Link Joker with ease. He does have a main phase ability of Counterblast 1 and choose a locked card, unlock it. So very good against Link Joker. That's why, again, 4 copies of this is ideal if you want to make the best Seal Dragon deck possible. With Limit Break Enablers like this. And then for the last Grade 3, I do run the 10k Flannel. Very good rush capability. It punishes players who use 10k Vanguard Grade 3s, and it punishes players who still ride the 10k Vanillas. So 3 of this is really nice at rushing. And again, the thing to remember about Limit Break decks is that they're really good at countering decks that like to sit at Grade 2 for a turn or 2 or whatever, and then they're also really good at just being able to do things in the early game. Like, you can ride Corridor and retire something. You can rush them down with a 10k Grade 1 really early. You can Limit Break potentially at no damage at all with this guy and this. So it's really good. So that's the nice thing about Limit Break decks. People seem to think that they're not that good, but I mean, look at Sanctuary Guard. He's a good example of Limit Break decks in Stride format. Next for the trigger lineup, it's 4 of the Seal Dragon Art Pike. Use him occasionally. He's basically Margle. You can use him to help stack the soul again for this and give something 3k. Then 4 of the Seal Dragon. This is the unflip when it's placed on R, and you have a Seal Dragon Vanguard. You can choose a card for damage zone for each of the opponent's Grade 2s and flip it up. So he's a counter charger also for them. So 8 criticals and 4 heals. Everything's Seal Dragon. And the starter is the only non-Seal Dragon in the entire deck. So Dragon Knight, Sade, just because he does give you more retire power in the early game. Usually I combo him with Corduroy. That's almost always what ends up happening. So I retire their starter and they have to pick off whatever else they want. So very, very good lineup for rushing early and giving Seal Dragons just that early game advantage. For the Stride deck, it is pretty straightforward for a Kagero Stride deck. It is 4 Hell Deity Seal Dragon Cross Origin. For Seal Dragons, this is really good at 4. So I'd recommend running like 4 of it. And then next I am running 4 of the Novell Express because it can end games. It's basically Kagero's equivalent of the Diablo that Shadow Paladins have. So I definitely recommend running like all 8 of these. And then a Root Flare play, a Mustafa play, just because usually I'd never use Mustafa, but he's just there because you never know, like if you need some extra retire power or whatever. He does allow you to choose to retire whatever you want, so that's what I like about him. And then Root Flare is just there because Root Flare is just really good. And then 2 Denial Griffin. It's very good at punishing the opponent. I mean, they're going to usually have lots of Grade 2s to swing with, So this just basically stops them in their tracks. I like this card a lot because in playtesting Kagero, my Kagero decks in general, I really like this because it does make me feel that they're starting to bring trap cards into Vanguard. Whether they be hand traps like Effect Veiler, or this essentially is a Sakuretsu armor from Yu-Gi-Oh! Or a mirror like a mini Mirror Force. That's exactly what this card is. So that's why I like this card a lot. And then 2, Essel Orb Dragon. Usually, I mean, Seal Dragons are a little bit less consistent with Essel Orb compared to the other Kagero decks. Mainly because they usually always want to hit the back row. The grade 1s, the grade 3s, the grade 0s. Well, normally, I mean, they can retire grade 3s, but that's rare. So mainly they always hit the starter and the grade 1s, so the opponent doesn't have a proper booster field. But sometimes the opponent can still tend to have like lots of rear guards. But it's still pretty consistent overall, I'd say. So that's basically my Seal Dragon deck. Let me know in the comments what you guys think of Seal Dragons in general. I think that they're really underrated in playtesting them. I've playtested them a lot against like Outmile and Neo Nectar and all kinds of like spammy decks, Gold Paladins. Didn't really have too many issues. Even against Link Joker, they're pretty good because although those matches are just cringeworthy terrible to play because 2 defensive style decks like Kagero and Link Joker is never really fun to watch. But again, Georgette helps a lot in those matchups. So anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, I'll see you guys in the next video. Thanks.